And the last one here, again, a kind of forecast of the future.
Let's observe the effect of Evian.
Is that all advertising should be engaging, and this sounds kind of obvious. But in the new media, really, it's not obvious how to make it engaging and how to make it work. And I have an example here from Evian, which is a pretty large, fairly traditional company. And some of you may remember about 10 years ago, I think it was around 1998, they had a very successful TV campaign with babies swimming, right? Babies swimming, water, very successful. And they wanted to recreate this. And so in the last year, the brief was the bottled water market is in trouble. We want to recapture the magic, do something evocative, but we want to put the internet at the heart of this. And so what they did was they created an ad for YouTube only. It was launched in 6 countries simultaneously on the YouTube homepage for 1 day only. And this is the ad.
Let's observe the effect of Evian on your body.
Come on, I say the hip hop, the hip it to the hip hip hop, you don't stop the rocket to the bang bang boogie, say up jump the boogie to the rhythm of the boogie to beat.
Now what you hear is not a test, I'm rocking to the beat, and me, the groove, and my friends are gonna try to move your feet. See, I am Wonder Mike, and I'd like to say hello. Bang bang, boogie to the boogie, the up jump the boogie to the bang bang boogie, let's rock. You don't stop, rock the rhythm that'll make your body rock. Real soon, for you heard my voice, so then I brought 2 friends along. And next on the mic is my man Hank. Come on, come and sing that song, that song.
They predicted in advance of this launch, their target was to have, I think, about 3 million views across these 6 countries. This went viral, it became very, very popular, and was forwarded all around the world. In the end, they had more than 55 million views. And because this campaign was launched in only one medium, it was launched on YouTube, there was no supporting campaign on TV or anywhere else. They were able to measure the results of this pretty well, even in brand terms. And so brand preference went up 9%, and purchase intent went up 8% afterwards. And this is something that was launched only on YouTube. And it's just an example of the kind of things that you can do. Of course, you can't predict whether or not something's going to go viral. But they made a very good stab at this. And this is a large traditional company. And I think if they can do it, every single company in here can do something like this. Now, since it's a group of marketers I'm talking to, I thought it would be nice to end with just a few takeaways for you that I think are important for you in your own job. Some of these have been mentioned throughout the day, and so it's no harm to reiterate. The first one is to integrate your offline and online offerings. Again, as I said at the start, my contention is that digital marketing itself as a concept is dead or dying. It's going to go away. It's just going to be marketing. And the thought of having a traditional offline approach, set of campaigns, even a separate traditional marketing team, and an online team or a digital team, I think won't make very much sense. And in the job that I do, I manage our advertiser business in Europe, and we have a lot of small and medium-sized businesses that advertise with Google. And there was one good example from this past summer. For any of you who know kind of the Mediterranean, you'll know that these economies and businesses tend to shut down and slow down dramatically in August. And it's very, very, very typical that businesses would shut down altogether. Maybe for 3 weeks, people would go away on holidays. And there's a Greek advertiser who advertised with us who was quite a big bookseller, an offline bookseller, bricks and mortar. They also had an online presence. And so they shut down the business, as a lot of Greek businesses did, in August. But they took the unusual step of also shutting down their website. But at the same time, they ran a radio ad campaign. And so there was a radio ad campaign running in Greece, which was driving people, of course, to the website. When people got to the website, they saw a screen saying, "Website closed until September 6th. Please return then." This is a website. The website was closed down. It wasn't just that a few people had gone home. And it was just a striking example to me of how badly you can mix up your offline and your online offerings. And I think it's vital as well in this online world to make sure that you're offering the same products and services online that you are offline. I think it's still very common, even for retailers, to offer a different selection of products on their website than they do offline. And that's a real problem for very many reasons. Because even if you're in the kind of business that doesn't actually sell things through your website, this research online purchase offline effect, this ROPO effect, is very well known now. And for almost anything, whether it's insurance or cars or whatever, people spend a lot of time online, even if they don't purchase it, researching beforehand. And so if you don't have everything that you have to offer in terms of products and services available on your website, that's going to be a real problem, and you'll never know what business you've lost. The second thing is measuring the results. And this really goes back to the earlier point about marketing being the new finance. You now have access to such an amount of data that you never had before. And even on a simple website, the absolute minimum that you have to have is some sort of analytics software. Lots of free products available out there. And the minimum you need to be able to do is understand where the traffic that's coming to your website is coming from. Is it coming from a search engine? Is it coming from ads? Are people typing in the URL directly? And what they're doing when they get to your website. Are they bouncing away straight away, which happens a lot? Are they struggling to find what's in your website? Are they purchasing? Are they stopping just before they enter their credit card information? There's all sorts of very, very important information that you need to be able to tell, and you need a good analytics setup to do that. And again, because I work with a lot of small and medium-sized businesses, some are very savvy, some less so. Even some of the savvier ones want to embrace all of these Web 2.0 technologies, blogs and social network and all that kind of thing, and have this kind of interactivity on their website, which is great. But that is running, and you have to be able to crawl first. And the crawling stage is understanding everything that goes on your website before you start doing anything fancy. Because remember, if you've spent a lot of money on marketing to drive people to your website, you've already incurred that cost. So once you get that traffic to your website, any incremental improvement you get in conversion rates, for example, will just go straight to your bottom line. And it's important to crawl before you try to walk and run. Oops. The third is find new ways to do market research, and I mean market research in the broadest sense here, including consumer research and so forth. A number of the speakers mentioned it earlier on today with social networking, with blogs. There are all sorts of ways for you to find out more about what people think about your brand or your product. And you can perhaps complement it with focus groups or more traditional forms of research. But there's an awful lot that you can find out there. And I think for many of you, you should probably have somebody in your company spending most or all of their time monitoring things like this. Because if you don't know what people are saying about your brand, then you're wasting very valuable information. And you could be throwing money at the problem when, in fact, all you have to do is dedicate a little bit of somebody's time, and I think it can pay back very big. The fourth one is, it says make ads informative, but really what I mean is, I guess the holy grail is to try to make advertising seem like a service rather than an assault. And again, in these new media, we have the opportunity to do more targeting. So I'll give you an example. I'm getting married next year. I don't have any kids. But when I sit down and watch TV in the evening, I see nappy commercials. And I don't see any ads for wedding photographers. I happen to be looking for a wedding photographer at the moment. I have no need for nappies yet. But yet, I'm bombarded with nappy ads, which I find intrusive, but I don't get the ones that I need. And it's very simple, but it's a kind of age-old problem, which we're starting to be able to solve. And in 5 years' time, I would expect that the targeting of these kind of advertisements will be so much better that the ad will seem more like a service to you rather than some clutter or some sort of assault. If you're walking through the desert and you see an advertisement for a bottle of water, you're going to consider it information and you're probably going to welcome it. But after you've drunk the bottle of water, another ad is just going to seem like clutter. And the final one is, again, this is perhaps one of the most important things that you've heard from a number of the speakers today. Find new ways for the consumers to interact with your brand. You have all of these new media available to you. And if you still keep on following the traditional approach, you may get away with it for a little while because all of these trends aren't going to transform the world immediately. But in 2 years' time, if you still have a separate approach to offline as you do to online, if you have a digital specialist locked away in a corner somewhere or none at all, I think you're going to find yourself in very big trouble. The good news is that we have time. These things tend to take several years to really come into full effect. And I think you have a couple of years, but if in 2 years' time you're still talking about digital marketing and you're still talking about it separately from traditional or offline marketing, then I think you will have difficulties. And so, again, just make sure, unless you're the ESB, that you don't have an electricity department in your company in 2 years' time. With that, I'll say thank you very much.